aspects, Rohit.
And if you flip this a little bit, right, from the
Yeah.
perspective now of not the kind of person that you would like to hire or how you think about hiring and the role that it plays, but if you flip the
Mm-hmm.
question a little bit in terms of how do you get some of these good people, the top people, to come and work for you, right, to be a part
Mm-hmm.
of your organization, to contribute to your journey. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
that asymmetry that you mentioned, while it definitely exists, always existed, it will always exist because one
Mm-hmm.
party is able to offer a role and the other seeks it. But also in
Mm-hmm.
many cases, especially when it comes to the senior people, the functional experts, right, the more
Mm-hmm.
niche but specialized capabilities, that asymmetry might be less. It might even get flipped in certain situations, right? On
Mm-hmm.
how
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
urgent a particular capability is for you. So also I want to get a little bit of a sense of the other side, which is
Yeah.
how do you think about
So again,
why
there.
someone should come and work for you? How do you
Yeah, yeah,
communicate
yeah,
that? How do you inspire
yeah,
them?
yeah, 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 yeah. Great question. Again, there, right? These principles that I talked about still hold.
Hmm.
As in,
Hmm.
I will, I am not going to oversell a role to you. That you're not going to. There's absolutely no way that you will end up sticking long, especially if you're a senior person, right? It's your career that is at stake. So it's very important to be honest, to have integrity with which you speak of, what this individual will be doing at the
Hmm. Hmm.
organization. I think it's also important to also state where you want to be in the future, where you were in the past, where you are today, and where you want to be in the future. Right? I think it's important for me at least, right, to be as articulate as I can be about the future, and especially when it comes to senior roles. Why am I hiring a senior person? I mean, unless and until it's a distress hire, I'm hiring this senior person because I have a path, for that particular person to grow, right? And there's enough
Right.
room, right? So I should be able to articulate it very, very clearly to this particular individual. And I think the principles of your organization when it comes to resiliency, your organization when it comes to, let's say, how we view failures, right? I think very important to land that. What is your
Hmm.
tolerance, right? What are the areas that are okay to sort of take risks on? What are the areas that you believe are absolutely sacrosanct that you can't really screw around with? Very important to be extremely open about it, about your
Hmm.
principles.
Hmm.
Let's say that you you I'm just making a loose example that you want people to work from office, okay, but there could be an individual who has worked from home all the time, and let's say that you really really want this particular person to work for you, because if this person comes, you get the next whatever. But then it's also important for you to state that, hey, this is a principle that I'm not going to breach. I'm just making a random example.
Yeah.
Or it could
Right.
be, let's say,
Right.
remote first, saying, I know you love to come to office, but everybody else works remotely. I'm not going to breach that, right, for you. So things that I will, and things that I will not, right? I think it's very important to be very clear about it. Yeah.
Understood.
So, yeah.
Understood. And to this effect of maintaining this high performance culture, right? Like, so this is the baselines, the foundation that you set on top of which
Hmm.
everything else is built. These principles, these
Hmm.
grounding sort of ideas.
Hmm.
What are some of the other things I also want to ask is one, how do you think about like capability and skill building, right? Do technology? I mean, I would imagine technology organizations would be among the ones that would sort of like need to do this the most, right? Because the tools, the languages, the capabilities,
Hmm.
they keep expanding more rapidly in software than perhaps anywhere else, right? Like I
Hmm.
don't
Hmm.
think there was obviously a lot of upskilling that we had to do, say for technicians in PNG when I was there, but there's
Hmm.
a limitation, right? Like on how much the machines are going to change, accordingly how much maintenance procedures are going to change, how much tools are going to change, right? But
Hmm.
I would
Hmm.
imagine that there's a lot more velocity, just by
Hmm.
virtue of the fact that everything that you're doing is tech, it's digital, it's software. from that perspective. So any thoughts
Mm.
on how you think about like skilling, about capability building? Is it something that a tech organization should do deliberately, or is it that the people you hire are inherently such that they will find the next best thing, bring it in, prototype it, and then it'll start percolating into the org? Because we do see a lot of your developer tools growing more from a product-led growth approach. Like if I put on my VC hat and I see what founders are pitching, grow from a
Mm.
PLG perspective rather than Freo, somebody sold it to the CTO and now the CTO is rolling it out across the org. I mean, we've seen both, but we've seen PLG
Mm.
being a lot more relevant in software and dev tools than in, say, something like manufacturing, banking, or healthcare, in at least my
Mm.
limited experience. So I wanted to get a sense
Mm.
of how new
Mm.
skills grow in an organization like yours.
Hmm. See, I think in my opinion, the age-old dictum here still holds true, where more deeds, less theory.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I mean, I have a 12 year old at home. I can keep telling her not to do certain things, but she will do it and then figure out why I said don't do it. Right? I think there is no substitute to doing things on the job and learning. Right? I think especially in startups, your growth is exponential because you are getting exposed to a plethora of different problems firsthand. I think that when it comes to, um, let's say, for example, a larger company where things are a lot more structured, a lot more evolved, L&D team, etc., where you know how much work hours you're putting in and things can be planned, you could, in those cases, fall back a lot on theory because really the guys are not getting that many opportunities to sort of.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, Although that said, there's a bit of a caveat. In startups, you can end up doing busy work, meaning you are essentially being loaded with a bunch of things to do. You're not really learning. What
Hmm.
you're doing is you are using, let's say, ChatGPT. It gives you a solution. You don't really know how it came along, and you pasted it, and you problem solved. You moved on. You didn't learn. You didn't end up double clicking on why is the solution the way it is, right? It's very similar in let's say larger organizations where people can go to LLD classes and check their phones, right? So it really depends on the individual to the extent that they're doing justice to the opportunities given to them. But I would imagine that nothing succeeds like sort of doing things firsthand. Right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And in a startup, you end up getting a plethora of those opportunities. And if you spend a little bit more time trying and understanding why is this particular library built the way it is, right? Why exactly are certain things, let's say, binded? I mean, what exactly? I'm just making this random example. Why uh, when should we choose a round robin algorithm versus, let's say, maybe least recently used an LRU, right? Because both might work at a particular point in time, but something might be more relevant than the other when things scale, right? Depending upon the nature of the application underneath. So, so you could just ask ChatGPT a question saying, "Hey, I want to distribute my traffic evenly," and it might give you an answer saying, "Use, let's say, round robin." But that might not be the best answer for the systems underneath. So maybe the next question could be, "What are the different kinds of algorithms? Which algorithm suits the problem statement at hand?" Right.
Right.
So I think startups offer you that opportunity to
Hmm.
really upskill yourself purely by letting you do things. But it's also up to you to the extent that you want to spend time understanding why you're doing what you're doing.
Understood. Understood. No, that's very interesting that it's almost that the design of the companies themselves, right? Especially technology organizations, startups, like you mentioned, that there is that the capability building, learning aspect is inherent in many ways,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
I mean, the enablement is already there
and correct.
in many shapes and forms.
Correct. And what you make of it, right? What do you do with it? I think
Right. Right.
because anyways you're sitting on top of rapidly evolving technology. Startups are the first to sort of try and see if a new technology can get of course you don't want to be, so there's a thin line between being brave and being stupid, right? I mean, maybe you don't necessarily want to adapt something which is bleeding edge, because nobody else has. I mean, maybe there isn't enough community, so to back you up. You don't have enough strength in there, but you just want to take it because it's new and shiny. There's a very high probability you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So you need to have that balance in terms of adapting new technologies, but startups are a lot more open, because it's a lot easier for them to actually accommodate some of these advancements that are happening.
Got it.